Hello again. I'm Stephen Jerome, and I'm going to continue reading the London Year. This is, I believe, it's part 10, and actually we're on page 10 too. Just a little quick setup. Terry has a young American guy has arrived in London in the early 1970s. No expectation of being there, knowing no one, knowing not what to do. And so he begins figuring his way. He's found lodgings with a family in the North Acton suburb of Greater London. And so during those first weeks, it's a first person, so this is fiction, but it's written in the first person. So during those first weeks, I would take a day visit to central London, catching the subway, the tube, at North Acton station. This form of public transportation was common enough for most people in big cities worldwide, but car-centric Los Angeles was still decades behind any kind of subway system at all. In fact, they'd removed a surprisingly functional tram line in the late 1950s, the Red Line, in deference to the auto, tire, and oil companies who wanted an entire city dependent on them. And they got their way, reshaping the city's destiny in a stroke. So riding the tube in London was my first experience with mass transit. It was exhilarating to think there was an entire big city above as the carriages rattled through dark tunnels at full speed. Coming in from the suburbs and never at peak hours, I always had a seat where I could study the instantly recognizable map of London's sprawling underground constellation. From North Acton, the Central Line was direct to Oxford Circus, which put me in easy walking distance to all the introductory sites. I listened to lunchtime organ concerts at the Church of St. Martin's in the Field. You hear that? Those are the Canadian geese. We have a lot of them now coming at this time of year. Sometimes there's dozens flying overhead. It's just so marvelous. Anyway, I visited the National Gallery and saw my first Turner and Monet paintings. Familiar from books, I had no idea how huge they were. Exploring room after room of our world's most enduring treasures, I left the museum in tears. Of course, honoring the instilled admiration with which I'd been brought up, I made a special vigil to the gates of Buckingham Palace. It was a ceremonial day, and the one and only time I saw Queen Elizabeth II in person. She was on horseback amidst the royal pageantry. I heard a loud popping sound coming from the sidelines. The Queen's horse jolted. Her Majesty took a quick look over her shoulder before cantering bravely on. I was struck by how anachronistic it all was, yet how important in the way heirlooms are important. Precious things one brings out just for special occasions. By all means, bring out the shining jewels, the braids of gold thread, the horses and colorful uniforms. Honor tradition by giving the past its due. Yet, even in the 1970s, I could foresee the monarchy's quick demise once the reigning queen eventually passed. The world was moving inexorably on, past the adoration of those greater than. The world was moving inexorably past the adoration of those greater than ourselves. Kings and popes and emperors, even dictators, would one day join history's treasure box of relics. But really, as I saw it, the arc of history was already moving in a decidedly new direction. As never before, I was ready to move on too. In my walking around central London, I also stumbled upon one of London's less glorious attractions. At one point, I was taken by the urge to pee and found myself following the toilet signs in the ever-bustling Piccadilly Circus underground station. So I have to stop here because it gets a little, a little funny. And then it will continue once I gleaned the big picture. I knew it was time to leave. As I headed for the exit, a very pleasant man in his early 30s approached. "Excuse me," he said, then reached in his jacket pocket, pulling out what looked like a wallet. Then he flipped it open to reveal a badge. It was old Bill. I'd obviously lingered long enough to draw attention, and suddenly I was being detained. "Where are you from?" he asked. The question was rote. Any copper would have seen at a glance that I was fresh off the boat. "Yeah, I'm from Los Angeles," I said, all American-like. Fortunately, this stopped the conversation in its disaster-leading tracks. No need causing an international incident over a hapless tourist. "You'd best not be hanging around here," he said. There was almost a kindness about him, another word to the wise. I considered this a quick lesson learned. "You're right. I'm sorry." "Be on your way then," he said, and with heart pounding, I found the stairs and headed back up to the street. So, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for, part 11 now. Okay, bye-bye.